This episode is proudly supported by ArtsPay. As a hospitality owner, you know that when it comes to business, the right tools are everything, especially when it comes to payments. ArtsPay, based in Australia, is a payment solution built on a unique model. They give 50% of their profits back to the arts community. They provide world-class point of sale, payments and support that make your operations run smoothly. But with every transaction, a portion of the fees helps build a permanent funding source for Australia's artists and cultural institutions. What's best is it costs less too. The result is a powerful way for your business to grow and become a force for good. You're not just taking payments, you're directly supporting the vibrant culture that makes our communities unique. ArtsPay believes that business should add up for everyone. For more information, go to artspay.com. ArtsPay, it pays to make the change.
Those feelings alone are like, you kind of just sit back there and you can get like damn near emotional sometimes as well. You're just like, wow, like people are here to eat your food, to sit in your cafe, to be in your couch or like in your living room. Like how cool is that? You know what I mean? Like, that's such a crazy feeling. Like out of everywhere they could have been tonight, they chose to be here, like with you.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Today, we're talking with Zac Young, the visionary behind Canberra's only overnight cafe Kitta. We'll explore how his vision to create a welcoming space for the uncatered became a thriving, family-run business with a powerful community spirit. Zac, mate, how are you?
Good, very well. Thank you for having me.
It's good to get you on the show. You've got a very unique business there in South Canberra. How are things going?
Yeah, good. I think we've come through winter relatively unscathed. It's been definitely cold in Canberra for whoever who doesn't live in Canberra. It's a cold city, especially through those months between June, July, August. But all in all, the business is doing really well. So I can't say anything less than that.
Well, it's a very interesting proposition that you have there as a food business. It's a lot different to many others, purely in the hours that it trades. Tell us a little bit about Kitta.
So, first and foremost, Kitta is, as you've already introduced, is an overnight cafe, and it's always been that since day one. We've been there we're coming up to our 7th year of business now, 7th year of service, and from what I understand, although it is my first sort of first go at running a place, that's pretty long for most sort of hospitality venues, let alone one that operates through those hours. But as I mentioned already, it's always been an overnight cafe. That was always the original intent, with Indonesian flair. It's a family business. It's a family run business, and we kind of touch on our Indonesian heritage from my mum's side, where we're from South Sumatra in Palembang. And the hours and sort of the wackiness of the overnight shifts is what comes from my dad, who was in the protective service, which is good to add. Yeah, so being a shift worker himself, he just knew that there was like hundreds of people out there that were uncatered for, and together we kind of joined forces to open up Kitta, which is now this strange but beautiful and like wonderful mix of all genres of hospitality, and it sort of has turned into this really what's the word I'm trying to find? It's institution, and has been able to create a really powerful and special cult following since then, and it's definitely one of a kind, that's for sure, and we're all very, very, very proud of it, to say the least.
It's pretty wild operating times. Whenever someone thinks of a cafe, they think of early morning and lunches, and then they close up for dinner. But you're opening at night and open till the wee hours. How did your parents decide that was the right model? Like, what take us through that sort of period of time?
Well, look, to paint the picture back then, I actually had nothing to do with the the operation at all. The idea wasn't mine, and I can't take any credit in that respect. It was to to shorten the story, I was already working with some other people, and they didn't need me anymore, and my parents already had that idea, so I came home and sort of piggybacked off the back of them, and just joined in, and it was just this wild time where we got the keys to the place that we had in Narrabundah in September, I believe, of 2018, and then we opened less than 2 months later, with my dad, mum, and myself doing 90% of the renovations. And at the time, I was only 18, so it was all a bit of a blur. And for what it's worth, I think looking back on it, funnily enough, I and a lot of people didn't believe in it. I remember my parents pitched me the idea, and me being like, I kind of thought I knew what hospitality was. I was like, at that point, I've been in hospitality for a couple of years, and that doesn't even really include growing up in the industry with my family businesses. But like, I thought I kind of knew what was cool, and they gave me that idea, and I was like, that's not it, dude. Like, I was like, my parents, I thought they were just out of their minds, and yeah, I think circumstances changed, and I just jumped on, and we kind of had no other option than to make it work. And I kind of quickly took what I thought was, you know, my questionable thoughts towards it to just share, you know, I need to get this done, and this needs to succeed. And here we are today.
What was it like in that early periods of time? Like setting up a food business that goes from sort of 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. is not the norm. So how do you get your clientele, and what was that like that sort of first year?
So yeah, funnily enough, going back to 2018 when we first opened, we were even worse than what we would say. We were open at 9 p.m. So we were doing 9 till 9, and that was already causing a lot of buzz, because I think people like the amazing team over at Canberra and a couple other hospitality / sort of cultural outlets in Canberra sort of jumped on that bandwagon really early, and was super supportive, and definitely spread the word, just because it was an interesting concept. But originally we opened at 9, and that was mainly because at the time my mum was still relatively part-time / full-time public service. So by the time she would be finishing work at 4, 5, 6 p.m. to come in to prep and to get everything ready, we physically couldn't open the doors any earlier than 9. um and yeah, and then we stayed open for 12 hours, and then we did that at the start from Wednesday to Saturday night, and then on the weekends we dabbled in breakfast and brunch as well. So we'd actually stay open from 9 p.m. till midday, and we'd have these crazy long services, and then we kind of quickly learned that wasn't going to be sustainable or ideal. Just to like, yeah, just wrap it up. Like, honestly, it was tough. It was the first few months, as you can imagine, just like any business is tough. But I think the buzz around us was was big enough that we were kind of off the bat quite a busy establishment, which is great. But we only found ourselves busy between the hours of back then 9 p.m. to about maybe 1 a.m. And which was great. We would capitalize maybe on 3 or 4 hours worth of trade, and it was be really busy. But we'd have almost practically no one between 1 a.m. midnight till 9 o'clock in the morning. And then on the weekends, we would obviously kind of start to have customers trickle back in at maybe about 7 or 8 or 9 a.m. for the breakfast service. But the nights are rough. The nights are long. And as someone who has done the overnight since day one, I've been able to see it grow into what it is today. But back then, it was difficult. It was really, really, really difficult. We would almost have next to no customers come in, and I would be relatively alone basically for 8, 9 hours of the night, just waiting, twiddling my thumbs until someone to come in. Like I tried to use that time as much as I can to learn as much as I could about social media and marketing and how we could kind of get our name out there more. But, you know, I think just stuff like that, where people just need to get accustomed to it. People need to, um, you need to become a reliable sort of business that it just takes time. And Canberra's a very big, like, word of mouth type of place. So over the course of the next couple of years, we then did chop and change our hours. We started we started closing at 7 a.m. just to be a little bit more forgiving on my sleep schedule. And then we progressed into opening at 6 p.m., which was oh no, sorry, correction. Then we progressed into I'm trying to think which way was it? I believe it was, yeah. Then we progressed into opening at 6 p.m. and introducing things like a kids menu and all that type of stuff. And then that's when I feel like we really like boomed and we just took off because we could cater for a little bit more of a dinner crowd. But the expectation there was there and the pressure was there to now become a little bit more of a like a dinner restaurant. And that is definitely another story. But we kind of have chopped and changed a little bit, and we've definitely come through different little phases of our hours. But I'll tell you what, the first couple of years was hard, especially when you have so many people out there that were very confused. First of all, like what we were doing. So just over time, you create a reliable product, and then customers come in, you show them that it's not a myth and it's the truth, it's the real deal. And then people can kind of start coming back and believe that you're there. But uh, I think yeah, there was no rougher time than the first couple years of service. That's for sure.
How do you work out your clientele for those sort of hours? I mean, most restaurants operate during the day and then into the evening a bit, but you've got such a variation of customers. Many people, if they're out at that time, are sort of howling at the moon and having a party. Like, how do you work out your clientele and deal with the different people that are out at that time?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, the thing with our business model is you can't work that out. We kind of get such a broad and a mixed bag of like freaking people. It's like it's wild. Like we have just like we have different phases of the nights. We kind of call them like rounds almost. If anyone plays like Call of Duty Zombies, like, and they progressively get worse and worse and worse, like you know what I mean, or they get like not worse and worse and worse, but maybe they might get later in the night, and as you can imagine, you have maybe people coming in from as you said, parties and whatever. But the start of the night is really interesting. Between 6 p.m. till 9 p.m., we kind of have that traditional dinner crowd where you can have kids, you can have young families, you can have maybe some older people, and you can kind of find yourself to have that real traditional typical sort of dinner service. There might be there's people coming straight from work, public service workers coming straight from work, or picking their kids up from school, so the kids still got school uniforms on. So you kind of have that little phase, and then you can kind of come into the night where it gets a little bit later. Now the sun's down, it's dark, the music's up a little bit louder, the lights come down lower, and you hit that sort of 10 p.m. to about 2 a.m. And that's where I feel like our stride begins, and that's what I feel like is sort of our core bread and butter hours, where we not only make the most amount of capital gain and do the most turnover, but like I feel like that just what Kidder feels like to me. And that's where you obviously get majority of your customers come in, so that's what they think you are as well. And that's when we can, like I said, turn the music up, have a lot of fun. You kind of have your people coming in maybe for a feed before they go out, or maybe young couples coming in on a first date, or maybe even some Tinder matches or something like that. Like, it's a very safe, neutral space for everybody. But then you can also have on the back end of the night, maybe 12 or 1 a.m., you can have people coming in for, a bit of tea and some cake after seeing like a midnight screening, or after seeing a theatre play or something like that. So we can still get your older demographic coming in at that time because they've just gone to watch a play or something, and it finishes at like 10:30, 11 or something. And at a time you can find ourselves having 45-minute wait on tables. We can have a full house. I can have like 10, 12, 13 tables on our wait list. And on average, I would say we have at least minimum 20-minute wait on tables, especially through winter, as like the outdoor tables aren't as appealing through winter. But yeah, we can kind of then really fill out and kind of be that hustling and bustling sort of cafe vibe as you would get maybe at like midday down at your local, where it's just like so many things going on and everyone looks like they're having a fun time, and that's like your peak hour. But then you kind of progress and you get into this now like sort of uncharted territory, it almost feels like, and it's like 2, 3 a.m. and then you have until that time till about 6 a.m. when you close, and that's when I can kind of get a real mixed bag of people. You know, I kind of find myself having a lot of people, a lot of hospitality staff tend to come at that time, which is great. So I could have, you know, the whole restaurant full of different staff from different bars or different clubs around Canberra, which is great. You know, the guys from Molly, the guys from Fiction 122, PJ O'Reilly's, King O'Malley's, the Kingo, you know, Public, you know, all these places that wrap up really late, and they might not want to kind of keep drinking, you know what I mean? And they want to come here as well. And that actually touches on the fact that we don't actually sell alcohol as well, that I haven't mentioned. So that's like a whole nother little thing that can kind of now broaden your horizon with who you can attract. Like we have a halal friendly menu. Yeah, we don't serve alcohol. We have a kids menu and we're open literally all night. So the accessibility is wild. So it's like you're attracting everybody. So the thing is, like, to answer your question, like how do you identify and how do you figure that out? It's like you can't. And at the end of the day, all we can focus on as a small business and as a team is to be so secure and so sure of our product, to understand what we are, and then just hope people accept it. And, you know, I think that touches a lot on like your storytelling as a business, as your branding as a business. You want to just be so on point that there's a reliability and people understand what they're going to get when they come in. So as long as maybe more so they're sure of what we're going to be, less than, you know, we're sure of what they're going to be, if that makes sense.
The hospitality workers are used to working different hours to most people in society, but this is certainly the extreme of it with what you're doing. What sort of impact does it have on getting staff to work those hours, and also on your body clock and the way you operate sort of when you're not at work and things like that?
Yeah. To answer the first part of the question, to get staff is actually, it is easier than you think. I think first and like right off the bat, when you think about it, you're like, oh my goodness, like the staffing situation with that must be horrendous, or it must be a nightmare. And it is and it's not. Like, I think for the first couple of years, we were very grateful and very lucky to have help from family, and going back on just having family businesses and having family in hospitality, you know, we had so much help from family, like my uncles and, you know, myself, and then obviously mum, and being a family business. Like it's one of those situations where we kind of laugh at ourselves, and it's like, if it wasn't for family, like, could we have not have made it this far and like done what we on? Because for the first and foremost, like, you know, they don't ask questions, you know what I mean? Like, family will just rock up and like they're there for you, and they might not be fully about the idea or fully into like what you're going on, but like they'll help you, and like if you ask for them, they'll be there. So even going back to the early days, you know, it used to just be me and my uncle that worked those overnights for the first like 2-3 years until we started to grow that team. But he would be in the kitchen cooking, and I would be in the front serving customers, and that's how it was every single night. And, you know, like, it does make me wonder, like, without him, where would we have gotten through those first couple of years? And it's like, you know, I always come to the conclusion of like, probably not. And, you know, and it's all those things. But I think what we've done something very beautifully is that we've been able to cultivate a culture and a team and a environment where a lot of people don't necessarily want to leave, which is great. And, you know, we're very proud and very confident in saying that the turnover of staff that we have at Kid is quite low. And for what it's worth, like in terms of the front of house guys, like no one's really ever working any later than maybe 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. So it's not like they're expected to stay around till the morning. And since we have grown and since we have developed, you know, more of a following and finding staff that want to work overnight isn't ridiculously hard, which is great. But in terms of my involvement and my body clock with all that type of stuff, is that it has been brutal, to say the least. Like it is definitely a rough and something like that I don't probably recommend for a lot of people, that's thinking about shift work. But I'm grateful that it's it's doing what I like. It's doing what I love, and even just talking about like shift working industries like security, or like my dad, for example, in the AFP, or really any sort of shift work, there's always an element of chopping and changing your shifts or chopping and changing your rosters. So there's a balance between days, nights, and time off. And although, funnily enough, things like 2 or 3 days between each little roster change seems nice, I can tell you that talking to literally anyone in shift work, they'll tell you that they want to do one or the other. Like, you can't really get away with doing both. And with me, I'm very lucky because it's the same 5 nights every single week. It's the same start time. It's the same finish time. And when you're in the position where you're the one that makes the rosters as well, like, you can definitely kind of cater it to yourself. And I need to protect myself because it is a very, 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 very like little sensitive position to be in doing the overnights. But I've been doing it for 7 years. And although it doesn't necessarily get any easier, you can just kind of figure out ways to make it best for yourself, because it is completely life changing. It's not just I'm finishing at midnight or 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. and then going home and I might not get enough sleep. It's like I'm coming home and I'm sleeping at 9 o'clock in the morning and I'm waking up at 3 p.m. And I do that from Tuesday through to Sunday. So really, Monday is the only day that I would have what you would call like a regular normal day. And I would wake up in the morning and I'd go home and I'd go to sleep at night. So the majority of it is leaning that way. And I have found things like, obviously, just staying healthy, staying active, eating well, adequate food consumption, not abusing caffeine, and the fact that we don't have liquor or booze around at the restaurant. Like, I actually like can just try to live a healthy lifestyle, even though the sleep pattern and stuff like that isn't healthy. I think when I was doing research and I was listening to a couple of things all about it, it's just consistency is key. And if you're doing the same thing, then you can kind of get away with it for a little while. But yeah, doing it for 7 years now has definitely made it more ingrained. So I find myself probably having worse sleeps for the nighttime than I do for the daytime. And I never kind of thought that was going to take a turn, because they were all like, there was one point, as you could probably imagine, like all your sleeps are just crap. Like, every sleep that you have is just horrible in hospitality and like running a small business, right? You're not sleeping enough. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. Like, they're just all crap. But now it's like kind of leaning towards the way of like my day sleeps are better and my night sleeps are not that good. So I can kind of identify that within myself. That is low key a little bit of a dangerous territory to start to come into, now that I'm approaching almost 10 years of doing it. Like, it's not sustainable and it's not forever. But for what it's worth, and the fulfillment that those hours in the wee hours of the night give me, spending time with customers at 3, 4, 5 a.m. just outweighs all the negative stuff. Like, the conversations and the people that I meet through those nights are incredible.
There's many cafes that want to be a hub of the community, like yours has become, but yours is quite different. But do you have any stories of sort of regulars that have become kind of reliant on what you guys do to match sort of their shift work or their lifestyle?
Yeah. Well, I think the thing to understand about Kitha is that you are not only filling, you're not just another, like, you're not only just another great cafe in Canberra and another great cafe another great restaurant in Canberra. Like, there's just so many of them here that I can just lift off the top of my head that are doing such a great job in hospitality. But you're also just like quite literally providing a service for those who are, as you mentioned at the start, uncatered for. So that's like a little bit of pressure, to say the least. And it's some big shoes to fill, because we quickly realized from a wacky idea that we had years ago that to like, oh, this isn't like a wacky idea. People genuinely really need us. Like, people genuinely like every single night. I can't really think of any night that I haven't had someone come in and literally go, if it wasn't for you guys, like I'd be having fast food, or I wouldn't even be eating tonight. Like I haven't had time to cook for myself at home. And, cause, again, shift work, and it's just like, you're an option there that hasn't been even considered. And we're not like the first of its kind. Like obviously there's been other late night, overnight places, but from where we stand at the moment, we're still one of the only ones that are doing it. And it's like, it is now that I understand like how much goes through the night, like baffling to see that there isn't more for shift workers and that. But to to think about just one story and one person, like there's just countless, and it's mainly like I'd say the emergency service workers in that industry itself. Like, we have. I'm just trying to think. Like I've probably met every single cop in Canberra, and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but like it's so ingrained in their community, in their culture now, that then when they have their break, they can come and they can kind of be at a place that is accepting of them, and that that will be there for them. And apart from like the couple weeks a year that we take a break through winter or Christmas, like we're there for them, and we're never going to close early, and we're never going to be somewhere that advertises till 6 a.m. But we're going to really actually close at like 3 because it's quiet. Like we're always going to be there, and we have to be reliable. And for all the AFP officers, and not even then, but like the paramedics or the ambulance drivers that are working these crucial hours, that are like out there looking after us, like it's pretty fulfilling being able to have a place that they can just be at for 15-20 minutes to have their break and have a coffee and have something to eat, and get through the night like safely, I guess, in one way or another, because they're just sleep deprived like us. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's tough doing those hours, like, and to stay alert and to be on it. Like it's full on. But even then, like we have ambulance drivers, like I didn't even realize that like the emergency services workers themselves are like kind of like hospitality in a way. Like they're also short staffed. Like I don't know why I thought that like you take these services for granted, and you're just like kind of think like, oh, there's enough people who take care of us, and there's like not, you know what I mean? There's more often than not, people are doing overtime, and people have got short teams, and it's really hard work. And ambulance drivers themselves, like I didn't even realize personally that they came from like a lot of parts in New South Wales, or they came from somewhere down the coast. So more often than not, we are getting ambulance drivers from like Bateman's Bay or Cooma, and they work for 12 hours a shift, and then they have to drive for 3 hours back home. Um, or if they get something caught up, they have to turn around and attend those duties. So I have met so many ambulance drivers that are doing those hours and doing those drives, and they come in for a hot chocolate or a coffee or something like that at 4 a.m. And then I get to chatting with them and realizing that they're from somewhere down the coast, and they have to now drive 2.5 hours home. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I can't even drive. Since starting the guy, I've actively moved closer to the business so I can drive less after work, because those drives home after a shift work are brutal. Um, but yeah, like there's like having the responsibility of that is amazing as well. But it creates so many great stories, to be honest.
You mentioned your mother's cooking at the top of the show just briefly. Tell us a little bit about the food offering, and is there a dish or two that kind of really speaks of what you guys do there?
Yeah, I think what's special about like how do I want to say it? Well, firstly, like Kidda is probably one of the only offerings in Canberra that has Indonesian food. And I know that there are maybe like two or three great joints as well that do Indonesian food, but it's not like your typical, like, I think we have a lot of Thai food, a lot of Indian food, a lot of Chinese food, a lot of Korean, a lot of Japanese food in Canberra, and they're all delicious in their own sense. But being able to like also offer something else that adds on to that, overnight hours of being an Indonesian restaurant as well, and having that little different expectation of what a late night dining place could be, is really, really, really special. I think opening, a lot of people not only touted us, but also was very questionable with like the type of food we were serving. I think what they expected a late night dining place or an overnight cafe to serve would be, burgers or deep fried food or quote unquote unhealthy food and all that type of stuff. But having Indonesian food kind of just leveled everything up a little bit. And it provided not only, a different option for people who work those nights, but like a healthy option as well, because everything's fresh. All the vegetables are fresh. It's very colorful. And it's something that's true to us. Like we weren't going to try and do anything that was um, foreign or unknown, which touches back on just like having family businesses and having, hospitality businesses in Canberra for decades. Going back to my grandma, we have a shop front in the city called Cafe, and that's been there, which I learned yesterday, for 35 years on London Circuit. And I don't know why I never knew that, but I grew up there my whole life, and I was surrounded by that, basically, been forever, and working, like just being there with my grandma or being there with my uncles or being there with my auntie's sister, mum, like, I was always involved there in some way or another. And that's where the Indonesian sort of food derived from. And since then, we've kind of chopped and changed and adapted a little bit, and mum's added on her own little personal flair from recipes that she's cultivated herself or gotten from her mum as well. And we've been able to sort of meet in the middle a little bit and introduce Indonesian flavors with, honestly, definitely a Western spin, a Western twist. We're not even like gonna try and beat around the bush and say that we're traditional or authentic in any way. It's dishes that we love to cook, and it's flavors that we love to taste, and it's colors that we love to present, and it's just the way that we want to do it. And it's been really well received. And mum's definitely the mastermind behind the menu side of things, that's for sure. But talking about dishes and talking about things that are iconic to us, first thing that pops in my head are pandan waffles. Everyone loves waffles, obviously. And when we first opened, we were open at 9 p.m. So we were kind of a dessert place as well. So I think just naturally we just, obviously people, that's a little bit too late for people to have dinner. So a lot of people coming through for desserts. So we instantly got quite notorious for our what do they call it? Milkshakes and desserts. So like those two were like what people were coming in for the most. And the pandan waffles were unreal. They're elite. There was these bright green, Belgian style waffles that had fruit on it with house made palm sugar syrup, and they were like generously sized back in the day when things were too expensive. Like they were just like huge. And since then they've kind of gone through its own little phase of turning into bubble waffles. And for quite some time, we haven't had on the menu at all, actually. And a lot of people ask about them, and we're bringing them back. So start of like next week, you've heard it here first. We're bringing the pandan waffles back because people's freaking, get really upset at us because we don't serve them anymore. But we've tried to figure out, how we can sort of keep it fresh for us. And to be honest, after serving them for 6 years, like we kind of got a little bit over them, but we didn't realize once we took them off how much people really wanted them. So we will be bringing them back, although it's that extra sort of work for the kitchen. It's what we want to do for our customers. But that would be the first dish that I think we're most iconic for, which are the waffles. But things like the mie goreng and the nasi goreng are our house specialties as well. We have them on the menu and they've never changed. And they're the things that people come in for like mostly. But then we also have things like curry of the week and different specials. So we change the curry every single week, and we have monthly specials and we do stuff like that as well. So there's a whole range of things, but those would be probably the top few dishes. So the waffles, the nasi, and the meat would be.
You mentioned something interesting really early on about the idea of Kita was your parents, but you came back to help them when you were 18. Were you always destined for hospitality? What were you doing before that, and what made you take the leap into hospitality?
Yeah, I think, funnily enough, I've only really realized what I could possibly be doing for the rest of my life in like the last couple of years. And I think that's very typical, at least for anyone in their early 20s or late teens, to really not know what they're doing. And I think that's totally fine. And I've been at least in my situation, lucky enough to not have the pressure of doing uni or studying post college. And I was able to really kind of figure it out on my own and for however long it took. I've been really lucky to have parents who've been really supportive of that. But I think, like I mentioned, growing up always in hospitality, growing up, helping my family at their place in the city. Not long after that, we were in the Canberra Centre, so I was always helping there on the weekends. I think a part of me is destined for hospitality, that's for sure. I think I do have a genuine love and passion for it. I think it's in my DNA. And even when I see people like my grandma and all that type of stuff on my mum's side, like it's just everything that she's ever done, and having an Indonesian background, like very hospitable, naturally hospitable people, and it's sort of in our DNA with the culture and the food and all that type of stuff. I think I have always been destined for hospitality, because before that I wasn't really doing much, unfortunately. I spent briefly about 2 years overseas in Jakarta with a posting for my dad as he was working at the embassy, and I kind of came back at the age of 17, 18, not really like that confident in myself in one way or another, in not in a confident sense, but I'm not confident in what I could do or what I could be in the future. Like I was just I don't know, like I didn't really feel like I was going to do much. And, growing up and whatnot, never had any hobbies. I never really had much passion. I never played sports as a kid. Like I never got into footy or soccer or cricket or basketball. Like I was just very like, I don't know, I always kind of found I was boring, but I always knew I had the capability to do something. And I also thought I was a little bit lazy, because I think if I ever tried something, I'd actually get good at it. But it was just the effort part. Um, but like, yeah, having the opportunity to do kidder at the age of 18 was ultimately life changing, and something that was, when I reflect back on it, something that was absolutely just placed on my lap. And, I didn't even really know how grateful an opportunity that it was, until then I kind of learned a little bit from it. I think at that time I was still, kind of living day by day, and you're not really having any future, like, or any prospects type thing. Um, but now, since the opportunity has flourished into, like, giving me the ability to become like a good leader, like, it's taught me how to obviously, conduct a successful service without any mistakes or many mistakes. How to bring a team together, how to build a community, what culture means, how to use social media, how to become confident in front of the camera, and it's taught me all these life skills that I could now apply to anything in my life moving forward. But I think the great thing about hospitality, and the thing about it for me, is that it's always been sort of like the industry of, or the business, I should say, the business of creating memories and the business of people. And like, I'm not necessarily someone who is obsessed and, addicted to, having the most perfect product, or having the most, produce, sorry, not product, produce, or, I don't have an amazing palate. Like I can't identify flavor notes that well in coffee. And there's all these little things that I thought I also not going to be able to do, which were going to make me a successful, you know, uh, sort of hospitality restaurateur. And then I kind of quickly realized that my niche was, I have an amazing ability of bringing people together. I have an amazing ability of creating, what you would call like a vibe. And then you realize, like, not many people can kind of do that. And that's what it's sort of taught me, and that's what it's sort of given me the skills to do in the future. But I can kind of take those skills and I can kind of do that wherever. And there are so many things that I've learned from it. But I think, from what I've learned in the last couple of years, is that I don't have to just do hospitality for the rest of my life. And I think I got a little bit scared at one point, because I thought that that's all I was going to be good at. And then, what happens if I just don't love it anymore? Like, what am I gonna do mentally? But I've been able to kind of break through that little barrier a little bit, and kind of broaden my horizon and zoom out just a touch, and just realize that, hospitality is just a factor of what I enjoy doing. and I could also just do something else if I choose to. But I think hospitality is in my DNA of sorts, for sure.
Yeah, well, it's extraordinary what you and your family have created over there in the south of Canberra. What do you love about what you do?
What do I love about what I do? I think the I think every person who works in hospitality or has chosen to do it for a quote unquote like career can kind of tell you that the chasing that like feeling or almost chasing the dragon of any given night where things are like working perfectly. Music is great. The lights are low, like I said before. The food's coming out. Everyone's vibing. No one's called in sick. No one's short staffed. Like everything is just perfectly crafted. And I always like kind of look at hospitality and the service itself as like a bit of a play and like a bit of a it's a bit of a show, right? Like, you turn the sign till you open the curtains. Basically, you invite your guests in, they're your audience. Every single person that works there kind of has a character, kind of has like a role to play. You have your soundtrack, you have your score, and then you have your story, and then you have your storyline, and how are you going to tell that to your customers? So like when everyone is hitting their character and when the story is flowing and everyone is good, I feel like that's what makes me love it. And it doesn't always happen like that. Like, I got 5-6 services nights a week, and not every single night is perfect. And it also has a lot to do with how I'm feeling as well. So it's like, one of those things, and it can kind of fluctuate and go up and down, and it's it's not on anyone, but it's just like those feelings that like, you can't even explain. And although you can do so much planning and organizing and training and meetings and stuff and blah, 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 like, like, these moments that I'm talking about specifically are just like, you can't prepare for those. They just happen. Because again, you don't know who you're going to get through the door as well. So like those feelings alone are like, you kind of just sit back there and you can get like damn near emotional sometimes as well. You're just like, wow, like people are here to eat your food, to sit in your cafe, to be in your couch or like in your living room. Like how cool is that? You know what I mean? Like that's such a crazy feeling. Like out of everywhere they could have been tonight, they chose to be here, like with you, and to give like, to spend their money at your business and stuff like that. And you're just like, dude, that's remarkable. But like, I think aside of just that, I think working with the team that I have and the people that I have is something that drives me to keep pushing and keep getting better. Like I'm a big believer of, being almost as close as you can with your staff member and as your team as you possibly can. Personally, I think it's way more beneficial than it is detrimental. And I know that can be a little bit controversial for some people. There was that old, stigma of like, business is business and pleasure is pleasure, and you can't ever mix the two. And, these people that work for you, and then you have your friends and all this type of stuff. But I think honestly, with what we have at Kidder, like everything on the floor and the team that we have, we've just proven that to be so wrong. And, the people we have, like we look after each other, we stick up for each other, we're around for each other. And I think that all plays a really important role of like the culture and the community that we have there. And it also means that most of our staff have been there for like 4, 5, 6, 7 years, like literally and that's amazing. And as I was saying before, like you want to create an environment that people want to stick around for. And we've definitely done it. So I'd say, yeah, definitely the people and the opportunities that you can make there. But also just that really like crazy wow feeling that sometimes, you can't describe. And only people that maybe have experienced it themselves can kind of, understand.
Well, Zac, it's an absolute joy to have you on Deep in the Weeds today, to hear a part of you and your family's story. Look forward to seeing where you take things from here. So please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
We'll do. Come to the restaurant, man. We need to have you. Thank you very much.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep, Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Stay safe and be well.